This podcast contains spoilers, explicit language, and is not meant for anyone younger than 13. Do not harass any of the names mentioned in this episode. A typical high school girl has been granted the ability to travel through time. But will this power cause more grief than she asked for? Find out in John versus the girl who leapt through time. Welcome back to John versus Film. In this episode, we're going to talk about The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. This is the second Mamoru Hosoda film I saw, not including Digimon the movie. And I really love this movie. Not my favorite, but I remember loving it when I first saw it. I watched it a couple times before I watched it for this episode a while back. And in my rewatching, I don't think my opinions really change that much. But anyway, what is The Girl Who Leapt Through Time? Well, it's a time travel movie. I mean, it's kind of obvious. But yeah, it's about a girl who leaps through time. That's about it. Yeah. I mean, there's more to it. I mean, she doesn't leap through like back in time to say the dinosaurs, or like she's not like, these are not Doctor Who level adventures. Like, I would say a good comparison to this is if it was Groundhog Day, yet if Bill Murray's character had control of the time travel or the time loop mechanic. Sort of like that, because the character uses, the time travel for her own benefits and all that. And like I mentioned before, this movie is directed by Mamoru Hosoda. The writer is Satoko Okadera. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Again, I'm pretty sure that is the same screenwriter for Summer Wars. And apparently, according to Wikipedia, the girl, the girl who left through time is like loosely based on a 1967 novel by the same name, and was written by Yasutaka Susui. I hope I pronounced that right. But yeah, it's like a loose adaptation slash sequel to it. Uh, so yeah, it's pretty. I didn't know that. That I literally just found that out while gathering the info before recording. But yeah, anyway, like I do with my reviews, I talk about the things I like first, and then I go through the things I dislike. Now, there's a lot to talk about of what I like, but I am definitely condensing things to 5 most of the time, from now on. But anyway, what I like about this movie? Well, I gotta say, Makoto, the character Makoto, the girl who does leaps through time, as we discussed, that's what the movie's about. She, like her character development and her arc, very, it's very well made. Like, she has like the challenge she has to overcome is her own insecurity, her own fear of essentially change. And the message of the movie is, well, it's obvious as they kind of say it, it's time waits for no one. And she has to learn that. But in reality, it's that she is afraid of time moving forward, or rather that others are going to leave her behind, leave her be, and just that things are going to change. She's just afraid of change. And yeah, and like, even though she uses like her time, like she uses her time travel abilities either selfishly or sometimes what she thinks is unselfish. Like there are times where she is trying to like hook her friend up with this girl and she uses her time travel ability for that. But other times it was, very early on, where she tried to like fix her bad day where everything went wrong and she just was like, "Oh, I want to have this bad day become a good day." So they're selfish, but I think what's nice about this, it's not immorally selfish in this way. Like I think it's like a selfishness that you can see in everybody. Like if you had the ability to travel back through time and could fix like a really bad day, most people would. Most people would do that. And what I also like is the consequences or the conflicts are caused by her. Not only by her insecurities of the future, but it's like either her actions causes, you know, conflict or consequences, or even her inactions, or and again that unwillingness to adapt or change. It's very well made and it creates very great character dynamics. Another thing is this movie has very, very fantastic visual storytelling. I mean, this movie has like some very good standout scenes. Like one example being when she first leaps her time, when she's like, riding down the hill with the bicycle, but the brakes not working, and what causes to happen is that if she wasn't going to travel back through time, she would have been hit by the train and die. And I think Funimation used that scene to actually advertise this film because I remember seeing that scene first before watching the film, and that was what got me interested to check out the film. But the real star of this visual storytelling mechanic is all right in the movie. It's discussed with Makoto's aunt, who will be calling Auntie Witch, as the movie suggests, and the aunt suggests that maybe Makoto traveling back in time, giving her, like goodwill, causes harm to be like the bad karma that she got be directed towards someone else. And we get the explanation, but after we got and get some of the explanations of that's probably what's happening, and we've seen an example with a kid who got bullied because Makoto went back in time and switched places with him during the cooking scene, like in home ec, whatever. So he would, you know, end up getting the accident instead of her, and it's revealed that he's just been getting bullied ever since, and he blames our character Makoto. But anyway, it just he gets pushed to the limit where he's like using the fire extinguisher on his, bullies, spraying them. And when he's about to spray Makoto because he has this pent up rage against her, he blames her for what happened in the kitchen, which to be fair, it's her fault because she did travel back in time and she knew it was going to happen. But like in a normal instance, it would not be her fault. But in this particular time travel scenario, yeah, it is kind of her fault. But anyway, he was about to spray her, but what happened was it ran out of I don't know what the chemical is called in the fire extinguisher. We're just gonna call it gas. Yeah, so ran out of gas. So again, this character is pushed beyond his limits, So what he does, he like lifts up the fire extinguisher and throws it at her. And what happens is her friend shoot Chiaki, there we go. Chiaki, who is the love interest as well, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But he like goes in to step in front of the fire extinguisher, and he would have been hit head on by a fire extinguisher, and that would have been bad. So what she does, she travels back in time and pushes him out of the way, but in order, you know, but that causes the fire extinguisher to hit, bounce off the floor and then off the wall, like on this little corner, it's like kind of just boom on the, you know, floor and then boop on the wall, and it flies and hits another of Makoto's friends. Shoot, I think it's Yuki. I'm gonna double Yuri. It hits Yuri, Makoto's like female friend that we gather, who also like who in that timeline is dating Chiaki. You know, so it hits her in the arm and it really causes, you know, like it causes her to get hurt really bad. Where she needs to go to the nurse's office. And yeah, you see that like it just that shows you right there that yes, she like her time travel does not come without consequences. And it's like a very quick scene as well. Like that quick moment of time travel, push friend out of the way, but that pain that was going to be reflected onto him went on to Yuri instead. And that's just very good visual storytelling. It tells the audience right there and then that, you know, if this, then that. That's a little coding, a little coding for. I'm like a like I'm also developing my own video game, so I've been coding a lot. So I'm gonna use that as similarity, because yeah, it's like if time travels to save friend, then consequence directed to someone else. Well, anyway, time travel. Gotta love it. Gotta love explaining the complications of time travel. Uh, but anyway, that'll lead me on to the next point, which there is just excellent editing throughout this movie. And like I mentioned before, is you know, with the scene where she first, leaps through time and avoids getting hit by the train, you know, there's just that like it's there's like it builds the tension up visually and auditory. You know, you get very nice cuts, between her riding down the hill and the little like uh animatronic. It's a small world after all figurings. Ringing the clock. It just that scene is a. Sorry about that. I'm still getting over something, but yeah, and I'm going to be recording this episode and another episode right after. So, uh, yeah, apologies again. Wow. But I guess don't talk about editing. Editing, I guess I'm allergic to talking about movies, editing, and tension. But yeah, it's like those moments like that where you get those for, you know, like that build up, that tension done through the editing and the music. It's very well done, very well executed. And I also gotta give credit to the writing once again. This is another very well written aspect, and especially for time travel. Time travel is not easy to write for. It is so easy to screw it up. And I think they could have just a little light critique, maybe not having to explain the mechanics so much. That may be a little bit of a detriment, but it's not even like a brief critique. That's a very, 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 very minor thing. It's not even on my list of dislikes or criticisms that I have, which, five, which is also five. I'm trying to keep 5 and 5, like I said. But anyway, it very much does a good job with time travel and keeping things like keeping uh, everything according to its rules. And the twist with Chiaki was great. On my rewatch, I noticed Chiaki more in the background, like he was the person looking for the painting very early on. And here's something to think about. This is a little film theory. I gotta say. Uh, I think Chiaki going back in time to see the painting, like he's from the far future. He's what caused Makoto's very bad day, and which led her to time travel. Now, here's my reason why. In the beginning of the movie, you know, she like is going on explaining, oh, I'm, average, person, don't get, you know, like I'm not horrible, but like with my grades, but I'm not like an A student, but I get decent grades, and but that doesn't correspond visually, because she gets a 0 out of 100, on her surprise test. She was running late, she got into that, and she's like, oh, I'm not particularly clumsy, like she's narrating for us. And then what happens is accident home ec that causes a fire, and she's just like traumatized after that. And then she goes on and says, I don't try to get myself into drama or be like, stand out. And she gets like hit by the like some kids at high school just roughing around, and she becomes, center of attention. I don't mean like hit by like they punched her or anything. No, it was just kids goofing around. And essentially, what was happening is one kid was playing, they were doing a recreation of So Long, King Bowser in the schoolyard, two kids, and the one kid who was playing Bowser in that recreation got thrown towards Shiaki, And I'm just gonna say though, just off the record, I'm pretty sure that would have landed the. I think that counts as a bomb in Super Mario 64. So the kid who is playing Mario, he got the key. He got the key for the next floor. To go into the basement. So just wanted to say that. So, but anyway, back to my point with film theory. We know that time travel is not without its consequences. And you would think, maybe a narration that's like, oh, she's building herself up. She's just like, oh, I'm your average student. But, maybe there's some sort of, false narrative. And to an extent, yeah, like she's been called like by her friends, she's not very bright. And even some of her family like poke fun of her, for not being the brightest one. But at the same time, you have to think with Chiaki's, use of time travel and how we see, you know, the consequences or the bad luck transfer over to someone else. Maybe, sorry, Chiaki, when he traveled back in time, a while ago, because it's such a long distance and it was, and for the record, Chiaki, he time traveled for his own selfish behavior. So, yeah, this whole incident was, was Chiaki's fault, but it goes through that bad luck transfer and her bad day and probably the whole experience, through her time travel causes the consequences to be, or the bad luck to be directed to her, and just it creates a butterfly effect, really. But and it just shows that, yeah, even if you're going back in time just to see a painting and you get stuck there and just have fun, you know, hanging around with your friends that you just made, yeah, that there's going to be consequences. Butterfly effect, bad juju. But Anyways, my last point I want to say of the I likes is that this movie, like pretty much all of his movies, has very spectacular animation. For here, it's like it's a mix between very nice, dramatic, somewhat, sometimes subtle animation to very pretty exaggerated, animation. Like when Makoto travels back through time, she tends to do a barrel roll on the floor and hit something. And there, like it's a very comedic movie as well. Uh, It's not. I don't want to call it a comedy. Okay, you know what? Maybe it is a comedy, but I'm just saying it definitely leads. It's a nice balance between comedic, exaggeration and just normal human behavior. Like again with the comedic expressions, like Makoto's face when she hits something, or her face gets very exaggerated. But something with more subtle animation is with her aunt restoring the painting that Chiaki wanted to see. It's very well crafted and very well done. Now, on to what I dislike or my criticisms. But this one, it's going to be I put a note on my notes that says AKA nitpicks because, yeah, these really are nitpicks just to let you know. Because again, this movie is really good. Definitely recommended. But anyway, the first point is again, these are nitpicks. I've watched the Japanese version for this episode, and I think Makoto's, for most part, Makoto's voice actress, Risa Naka, uh, yeah, Risa Naka. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I got to get back on learning Japanese. I really do. She does a very great job for the most part, but there are times where, like, there's a moment in the movie where she is laughing, about her time travel powers in front of her aunt, kind of a brag. It's a very forced laughter. The problem is not so much the voice acting or even the direction, it's that it just doesn't match with the animation all too well. Like her animation suggests that, like her voice acting, it suggests more like this is a fake forced laugh, but like kind of like an evil ha, laugh. But the animation, it looks like she's genuinely laughing. So it doesn't always match exactly what's going on visually. Is is what I'm getting at. This one is one of my minor nitpicks. I just put it on there. It's maybe could have spent a little bit more time with Makoto's family, not so much the aunt. The aunt, had a decent amount of time. Sorry, again, this cough has been torturing me for the past couple of weeks. But yes, so I'm more so talking about Makoto's sister, her mom, her dad. Like, especially her dad barely got any lines in the movie, and her mom as well. Her sister gets a little bit more, but I guess maybe a bit more family dynamic. But again, that's a very minor nitpick, if anything. This one I'm gonna say is not so much of a nitpick. It is, but it's I say it's one of my higher ones. It's has to do with the background art. You can tell like at some moments it just like it feels very much like a realistic capture of what they use for reference in the art, and it's it's only like for a couple shots. Like it's like when say a small group of characters are walking across the scene, you know, and you get that background still. To me, some of the art for those shots looks slightly bit too realistic. And that's kind of weird to say, but for me, I'm saying this because it's to me it feels disconnected to the animation, the art style of the characters. And I remember hearing something about Hayao Miyazaki and how he works. I don't remember where. It might have been either from a documentary I watched from him, about him, or an interview. But someone mentioned that Miyazaki would go to his background artist. He would look over everything and he would point out, how you have to change this because it looks too realistic. Because the point is, for the animation movie, is not to look realistic, but to look believable. So, and there is a difference. There is a big difference in that. Believability and realism is not the same. Realism is more so trying to match what's in reality. Believability, that's more so trying to, have it so you can believe that the characters exist in, the world that you're making. So it has to feel like the characters are actually there and not just 2D drawings. It's about that. It's a very tough thing to nail down, but it's that balance of you can't be too sloppy with the background, but at the same time you can't go super detailed with it to the point of where it looks really realistic. Unless it's a style, of course. Like if you're doing it for a style you know, then that's one thing. And maybe this was a style option and I just didn't care for the direction. And I'm not saying that they're lazy or not. No, this took a lot of work. I just think, personally, the direction of those background art, it just was a bit too realistic. Uh, some slightly weird pacing in the middle. I don't know. It's it kind of speeds up and slows down on weird points in the middle. Second act. Maybe that was just me. That's just a slight nitpick. Again, it just kind of the first act has a nice build up pace. Third act has a great slow pace at the beginning, or I should say the end of the second act probably. It's very there's a very nice slow paced moment. Most of the time pacing is fine, but I think it's just that little bit in the middle where she's abusing her time travel abilities repeatedly. It just feels a little weird. I don't know. That's just me though. I think that's just a personal problem. I should probably see a doctor about that. But anyway, on my last, point for the dislike and criticisms is this one's a major one. Not on the director, not on the film crew, but when Makoto first used her time travel, no, not the first time, but when she learned how to really control her time travel abilities and to have her start her good day, she gets up on time and early, which is to surprise of her family. But she's going down, she's saying good morning to everybody, but she crosses, like people are a little weirded out, oh, good morning, never seen you here before. You're usually the late one. What are you doing this early? This is weird. But no, there's this one moment where, she's passing, more elderly, older people, and she says good morning. And the grandma in the front, she says good morning back, but she looks super annoyed. She's just my God, did this child just say good morning to me? The audacity! How dare she say good morning to me? Wow, the nerve! Legit. You gotta watch the movie and look at her face. She's just so pissed off. She's just oh my God, my day is ruined. Thank you for saying good morning to me. Because of that, my day is ruined. But anyway, that's it for my thoughts on the movie. And I'm going to just do this in one take because I'm again, recording multiple episodes in one day, so I kind of have to. I'm going to go straight to the review I found on IMDb. I actually found more 1 out of 10 stars reviews on IMDb than I did with Summer Wars. So, off to a good start. But anyway, this review is titled, "It Was Going Okay." Ends up being a stupid brainwash. And is written to us by Ben Oyum 111. So, what does Ben have to say? Ben says, "It was going okay until the brainwash pops up. In future, we'll become a very high advanced civilization. Moreover, we'll invent blah. Sorry. Moreover, we'll invent time traveling machine in the size of a walnut. And even for instance, if a boy wants to go back in years just to see a painting that doesn't exist in his time, he'll be able to do that." So right off the bat, well, first of all, what's the brainwashing here? Uh, well, how is that brainwashing? I think, okay, buddy, my pal, I hate to break this to you. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time is not the first time travel movie, and it's not the first, like, not even close to being the first movie to say, "Oh, in the future we'll invent time travel." Like, how is that? Like, you might need to watch some more movies. You know, like, trust me, Godzilla vs King Ghidorah. I love that movie, but that doesn't do its time travel very well. You can criticize on that, but anyway, but again, brainwash. How is that brainwashing? Well, let's find out. Ben continues on saying, "What a horrible, stupid shit this is. First of all, time is not something that you can go back to, because time actually doesn't exist. Everything slow or fast, changes, and that gives the sensation that there is time. But no, there is no single moment that is saved somewhere that you can go back to." Have you not seen the time travel movie? At all? Like, seriously. Okay, with the whole, time is an illusion thing, yeah, I to a certain extent, it's a human made construct, a man made construct. Time does is very subjective, but at the same time, you got to have a little, at least a little suspension of disbelief. I mean, you're watching a movie where a girl leaps back in time. If you can't get over you know, the ability to time travel part, maybe, I don't know, shouldn't have watched a movie called The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. Just wow, this cough is killing me. I'm, so anyway, I'm just saying, if you can't get over the time travel, maybe not watch a movie that's clearly a time travel movie. Just saying. Anyway, this little sentence he goes on and says, "Life doesn't have a hard disk of itself." Damn it. Well, at least we have cloud save. I really am glad that we have a backup for cloud save on life. Because if we didn't, we're screwed. We're so screwed. What's that? Oh, I just found out there's not even cloud data for like our life backup on the cloud. So yeah, we're screwed. But anyway, with that existential crisis away, the second to last paragraph, Ben says, "Movies like Groundhog Day uses time as an excuse to tell a funny story and a transformation of a man when he has the chance to live things repeatedly. That is why that is an awesome movie." Or I'm sorry, I said an awesome movie, but Ben says a awesome movie. I have to correct myself there. But then he finishes off and says, "But this one is total garbage. It is using the story as an excuse to promote the idea that our modern civilization is getting more and more advanced, and moreover, will even invent time machines. Stupid. Being more mechanical doesn't mean more advanced. Okay. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Groundhog Day and how I also mentioned Groundhog Day. You kind of explain what this movie does. You know, I mean, you could replace movies like The Girl Who Left Her Time uses time as an excuse to tell a funny story and a transformation of a character when they have the chance to live things repeatedly or have the ability to travel back through time. That's what this movie's about. It's not about the time travel mechanics. You really read into that time explanation scene way too deep. You read into that and you gave this movie an unfair 1 out of 10 star. But anyway, thank you, Benoyum111, for that review. And that's gonna be it for this episode. I've been trying to really trying. I'm my goal is to kind of shorten these episodes down a bit more, so they're not over an hour long each week. I guess it's fine, but I guess I want to try to hone myself in and have more focus and less rambly podcasts going on. And this one, where we are at the about the 35-minute mark, I want to say somewhere around there. So overall, I think this is a good length for a weekly podcast episode. I'm not overstaying my welcome. And so yeah, that does about it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check my podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. And also, if you're viewing this on YouTube, press like if you like it, press dislike if you don't like it. Nobody will see it. But hey, there's that. And leave a comment to make suggestions on what I can do better. And if you're listening on the podcast providers, you leave a review. And yeah, that does about it for this episode. Again, thank you as always. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a fantastic day. And remember, time waits for no one. Except me, of course. But anyway, have a great day. On the next episode of John vs. Phil, truth be told, I don't know what's at stake other than John is watching Mama Hosoda's latest film, Belle. Hopefully we'll find out what it's about in next week's episode. Take care.